Okay, so before the weekend, this last weekend, we covered worksheet 9.5, which is graphing linear inequalities. Today, we're working on 9.6, which is me graphing systems of linear inequalities. So as you notice, if we look at numbers 1 and 2, we have two lines that we are going to graph and then have to shade. The shading will be a little different today, so that will be my focus. If you need help on graphing, I suggest you go back to the last video on 9.5 because I'm kind of not gonna rush, but I'm just gonna kind of graph these quicker so I can talk more about the shading that needs to go on, because that's really the new part from 9.5 to 9.6. One is graphing two lines on the same graph, and then two is where to shade. Okay, so let's get started. We have the same little breakdown up here. This is really helpful. Okay, we do a solid line and when we have the or equal to's when we're graphing, and we use dotted line when it's just the regular less than or greater than. Shade above and shade below just depends which way the inequality is facing. We're going to shade above when it's a greater than, and we're going to shade below when it's a less than. Okay, so we'll talk about those some more here. Let's just get started. Let's start with number 1. So we're going to graph these the same as you graphed in 9.5. I'm just going to do them both in the same in the same graph here. So let's start with the first one. This orange one, the slope is -3/1 or -1/3, depending on, or sorry, -3/1 or 3/-1, depending on which way I want to graph it. And my b, or my y-intercept, where I begin, is -2. So I'm going to come down here, -2 on the y-axis, and now I'm going to rise -3, 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to run +1. Only one of them is negative. Make sure at the end, when I graph this line, it should be negative sloping. And just to sketch it really quick, yeah, that's a negative sloping line. So I did the correct graph for my negative slope. And those are my two dots. So now I'm going to decide, am I going to do dotted or solid line? So that is dependent on this right here, the symbol, the inequality sign. Does it have the or equal to under it? Nope, it doesn't. So that means when I connect these two dots, it's going to be a dotted line. So let me zoom out just a smidge here. Let me try my best. Get a little dotted, or it was kind of like a dashed line, dashed, dotted. We get the idea. All right, so there's our dashed or dotted line. Now, usually we would shade this then, depending on which way, again, my inequality is facing. But right now I'm going to hold off on shading, because when I shade, I'm going to have to shade for two different graphs. I'm obviously going to graph the line of this one below it, and I have to shade an area between the two graphs. So let me draw the other line now before I discuss shading. Let's go purple. Okay, so here's my other line. Alright. Okay, so this one, they're both already in slope-intercept form, which is nice. My slope, my rise over run is 2/1, and my b is 3. Alright, so I'm going to drop down here. B is 3. That's where I begin on the y-intercept, 3. And I'm going to rise 2, +2, and run +1 right there. Okay. That's good enough. And now I'm going to choose to connect draw my line rather, dependent on this symbol right here. Since it has the or equal to, I am going to make it a solid line. This one's a little easier to draw for me because I have the straight line on notability. And there you go. So there's my two lines. One's dotted, one is solid. The orange and the purple I color-coded here. Now, this is the new part. We need to talk about shading. And it's easier now that we're actually not in school, because it's easier to shade with notability than it is with a pencil, because we can use these colors, these highlighters. Let me use something that's going to pop a little more. How about, whatever. No, pink. No, red's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to look at each line individually and decide where I'm going to shade. Now, there's actually 3 areas that I can, or sorry, 4 areas that I can shade. Okay, I have 1 area here, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, you're going to choose one of these areas. So this is area 1 to shade possibly. Area 2 is this little spot up here. Area 3 is off to the side here. Area 4 is on the bottom. It kind of looks like X marks the spot, right? We have 4 areas where we could potentially shade. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at each line and figure out, well, which areas are not going to be a part of my shading. So let's start with the first one. Okay, up here we have a greater than sign for our orange line. So ignore the purple line. We're just looking at the orange line right now. This line right here. Okay, and what are the areas that would be, since it's greater than for the orange, which areas would be above the orange line, right? Because greater than means shade above. So for the orange line, there's only 2 areas that are above the orange line, areas 1 and 2. So I'm going to go ahead and erase areas 3 and 4. They cannot be a part of my answer. Okay, so right now, we're already at 50-50. It's either area 1 or area 2. All right, and that's going to depend on the purple line. So we have the 2 possible areas for orange. Now let's look at the purple. The purple is also a greater than. If I look back up here, greater than means still shade above. So looking at the purple line now, ignore the orange line. I'm just thinking of the purple. Which area, area 1 or area 2, would be above the purple? I'm saying above because it's a greater than sign. Well, above the purple would be area 2. So area 1, I'm going to go ahead and erase. This is the answer. Now those areas that I labeled, those are just arbitrary numbers. Honestly, they don't need numbers. I just wanted to point out that there were 4 areas. So the answer is actually just the red shading. I guess I'll make it orange. I want red. Okay, this is where I shade. The answer here, all the solutions are in this red shaded area, okay? So that's actually the final answer. So I graph the 2, and then I have to find out which area is true for both lines. And I think in the directions it says where's the overlap. Where in my shading do both lines, which area is true for both lines? And in this case, it's this area. Okay, so let's do another. All right. So again, I'll start with this top line. Ooh, weird shape. That's okay. All right, the slope, the m is -2/3. I'm going to put that negative on the top. That's fine. And my b, where I begin, is +3. So I begin +3. And my slope is down 2, and then +3. There's my other dot. Erase those little loops. All right, so there's my 2 dots. We should start to get quicker about, okay, look at the sign. If it's just less than or just greater than, that's my dotted line. So let me go ahead and do my dotted line. There you go, graphed. All right, let's do the next one. Okay, give me my box. All right, my slope, a little trickier here. What is the slope? There's nothing in front of the x. If there's nothing there, what could we put there? Right, 1/1. So we're going to rise 1, run 1. And our b is -2. All right, so we go to -2, where I begin. Rise 1, run 1. Sweet. And now I look at the inequality symbol. It is an or equal to. It's greater than or equal to. So I'm going to go ahead and make my straight solid line. All right. All right, and as you can see, when these 2 lines intersect, I get my 4 areas again, right? And I'm just going to shade here. There's area, one of the areas. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. So one of these shaded areas is going to be correct, and only one. So I'm going to end up erasing 3 of these, and it depends on what these symbols, the inequality symbols, say in. Oops, not that. The inequality symbol says in each one. So let's start with the purple. or sorry, the orange, top one, okay? Less than is the symbol, so if I look back at the top, less than means shade below. Less than or equal to means shade below. So I'm going to go to my orange line, right, and which areas are below the orange, right? Those bottom two are below the orange, so I'm going to erase the two on the top. These two are above the orange, so those can't possibly be solutions. Okay, so now let's go to the next. The purple, it is greater than or equal to. So I'm looking at just the purple line now, just the purple line. Ignore the orange, just the purple. Okay, which area would be greater than the purple line? And that's the area above it. So there you go. There's the shaded area. You need this shading. This is the new part. If we were in school, I would have you like shade this with your pencil. That's what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for the two graphed lines. Are they dotted or solid? Is that done correctly? And did you shade the correct area? So this shaded area, just as a reference, is where all of the possible solutions that are true for both systems lie. So those three purple dots, if I labeled their xy, -4, 2. Oh, that's real sloppy. I'll do it over here. -4, 2 is this point right here. If I plugged it in for x and y in both of these, it would make them both true. Okay, so that's what that shaded area kind of means. All right, so let's jump here. A little trickier. We have a special case here for the top line we're going to graph for 3, and then we have to reorder for 4 and 5, I believe. Okay, so let's run through these. Top one. Now, when it starts with x is less than 3. It only has one variable, so that means it's one of my special cases. All right, so our slope is either going to be 0 or undefined. Okay, so for the one that's x is the only one that starts with x, that's my undefined slope. So my slope is undefined, meaning, okay, it's going to be a straight up and down line. Remember when I did, I drew the straight up and down line, I said the undefined was the guy, he's falling down because there's no slope. It's or not no slope. The slope is undefined. He's falling. So I'm going to erase all this. All right, so we have an undefined line. Okay, so if x is less than 3, okay, so I put a dot on the x-axis on the 3, and the undefined line is up and down. Let's look at our inequality symbol. It is just a less than without the or equal to, so that means I'm going to have a dotted undefined line. There we go. Boom. There's the graph. Okay, and we'll come back to how to shade with less than, although I think we might be able to figure that out. Okay, and let's go to this one now is more typical. Okay, my slope is -1/3. Put the negative on the top for now. And my y-intercept is -2. So I'm going to go to -2. All right, if it's -1/3, I'm going to rise -1 and then run +3. There's my other dot. Okay. Erase, erase. Am I doing a solid or dotted? It's going to be solid. Make it straight. That's not the best, but that's okay. All right, so let's talk about shading now. All right, so if it's less than this undefined line here, so here, the less than area is either going to be here or here, because these are where the values that are less for x are, right? The greater values are this way on the x-axis, right? We have a 4, 5, 6. It keeps going. That's greater than. Less than 3 is here. Right? Is 1 less than 3? Yes. Is -1 less than 3? Yes. Okay, so if I say, x is less than 3, well, what values are literally less than 3 on the x? Here they are. So that's the areas I can shade. Okay, I said I'm only going to shade one area, so I have these two shaded, but I'm going to erase one of them because it's going to depend on the purple right now. So purple, the inequality is a greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to means shade above. So which area is above the purple line? And there is your answer. Boom. That's the shaded area. You can shade, use whatever you want. Perfect. All right, let's reorder some of these and finish up these last two so you can get started on your homework. The problems you'll be assigned, since I'm not sure which ones I'm assigning yet, I will let you know in the description of the assignment. So you'll see which numbers to do. I don't want to say it on the video yet. All right, so let's reorder. All right, let's start with the purple. I'm going to subtract 5x both sides to start. So what I'm left with is negative y is greater than or equal to negative 5x minus 3. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. We haven't talked about this in a little bit since we covered inequalities way back when. All right, in order to solve, I need to get rid of this negative in front of the y. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. But there's a rule with inequalities that we haven't talked about in a bit. Can you think of it? What's the rule? What's going on here? Do I have to do something when I divide both sides of an inequality by a negative? If you remember, good for you. If not, when I divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, I have to flip the sign. Right? So it went from a greater than or equal to a less than or equal to. All right, then I have 5x, and negative 3 divided by 1 is positive 3. So there's my first line. Okay, let's do the other. I switch my color combos here. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides to start. So I'm left with a y on the left. Oh, I think I'm done here. And then that symbol doesn't change. I didn't divide anything. That's negative x, negative 3, and I think I'm done there. Right? It's negative 1x, 3. Okay, so let's graph our two lines. Let's start with the purple. All right, so the y-intercept is 3, and my slope is 5 over 1. The problem is I cannot rise 5, right? I'd be off the graph. So how am I going to fix that? If the slope is 5 over 1, how else can I write it so that maybe I could rise negative? Can I make just the 5 negative? Well, that changes the slope. I can't do that. What I can do is make them both negative. So watch what happens. If I make them both negative, let's see if my line is still positive sloping. So I go, oops, I wanted that. All right. So I'm going to rise negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to run negative 1. Okay. Even though I just rose and ran two negatives, look at my line. This is a positive sloping line. That line is sloping positive. So if I have a positive slope that goes off my graph, I could always just make both of them negative. Because a negative divided by a negative is indeed a positive. We have a or equal to, so I was right with that solid line that I erased already. Oh man, look at how ugly that is. It's all right. We'll straighten it out. Oh, no. I want it better than that. How's that? That's a little better. Okay. There's my purple line. Let's draw the orange. I have a y-intercept of negative 3, and I'm going to rise negative 1 and run positive 1. I have a negative slope. That's a negative sloping line. All right. It's just a greater than, so that's going to be dotted. Ooh. Come on. A little better with the dots. All right. So we have a dotted and a solid. Let's see where I'm going to shade. So it has to be, and you don't have to do like all the shading I was doing. Look, I can just do it one time. What area is less than the purple? Well, so remember, if you're thinking less than means shade below. Imagine this purple was a mountain. If I turned it into a mountain here, there's the peak. Okay, below would be inside the mountain. Above would be outside the mountain. So if I have to shade below, that's going to be inside the mountain. So my answer is either going to be here, here. Now I look at the orange. It's greater than, which means shade above the mountain, which means my answer has to be here. This is the spot that's above the orange mountain, but below the purple mountain. There you go. That's my answer. So let me erase this because that's wrong. If you shade any other area than this area, it would be incorrect. This area cannot be shaded. All right, last one. Here we go. Reorder. So let me do some more reordering here. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, so I get negative 3y greater than or equal to negative x minus 6. Oh, look what I'm doing here again. Oh, that's a weird 3. I'm dividing by a negative. What do I have to do when I divide by a negative? You have to flip the symbol. It's an old rule. We talked about that before, but now we got to bring it back up here again. All right, so there's one line, and let's do the other. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, so I'm going to get 3y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 3. I'm only dividing by a 3 this time. Since it's positive, I don't have to do anything to that symbol. Leave the inequality the same. Greater than or equal to negative 2/3 x, and then minus 1. So negative 2/3 is too ugly. All right, and put a box on it. Oh gosh, not quite a box, but that's okay. I'll do the purple first this time just because I already have negative 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Solid. Orange. Positive 2. Is it just 1/3? Or yeah, it's just 1/3. 1, 1, 2, 3. Positive. Oh, that one's also solid. Look at that. 2 solid lines. Okay. Oh, whoa, whoa. Started way off. I have to redo that one. It's not. Oh gosh. Stop. It's not perfect, but I see my 4 areas, so as long as I know which I have the 4 areas to shade, I'm good. So it has to be less than the orange, which is here or here, but then greater than the purple. So what's less than orange but greater than the purple? Boom. Done. All right, good luck. Make sure you turn in the assignment by the end of class today. Good luck. Email me if you have any questions.